For thousands of years, the land of Egypt had been one of, if not the most influential and powerful country in its time. The pharaohs built massive structures to represent their power and culture, but how come this land stands out from the rest of its neighboring land? First, let us take a look at the geography of Egypt. The country of Egypt has its borders defined extensively by the geography around it. Boundaries are important to making a country, like geographic structures separating a land from somewhere else. To the west, there's a massive desert, making the cutoff very easy. It's not habitable, and any cultures that would have passed through there couldn't. Therefore, it doesn't need to be owned by Egypt, right? You may say, though, the White Desert is still within Egypt's borders. This land is still filled with oases like Siwa and Baharia, and because these oases are nearby the Nile, their cultures became extremely similar from being so close together. To the east, Egypt is cut off by the Red Sea and the Suez and Acaba Gulfs. To the north, the Mediterranean Sea cuts off the border. However, two outliers shake up this idea of geographic separation. To the south of the country, Sudan lies. Here in northern Sudan, land has been contested before between Egypt and Sudan because the Nile River, the most prominent feature of Egypt, begins here. Another interesting feature of Egypt is the Sinai Peninsula to the northeast. This peninsula is only half separated from Asia, causing problems regarding who should own this land: Israel, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, or Egypt. The ways that Egypt retained these conflicting borders can only be explained with the history itself. For another 2,000 years after ancient Egyptian civilization, native Egyptians would never be able to rule themselves. Not until 1936 did Egypt finally break free from foreign rule and occupation by overthrowing Britain. The borders of Egypt were defined by the Anglo-Egyptian Treaty of 1936, in which the modern-day borders still stand. Although the borders started and ended the same, future conflicts emerged from uncertainty in these ill-defined borders. From 1899 to 1956, Sudan was administered by both the British Empire and Egypt governments, making an Anglo-Egyptian Sudan. Yes, even after Egypt had gained its independence, it still had partial control over Sudan, making a distinction between countries yet even harder. Yet, in 1956, the Sudanese people decided that they wanted freedom from both Egypt and Britain, and so they founded the Republic of Sudan and peacefully broke off. Side note, Britain decided the borders of Sudan, leading to much of the later conflicts within the Sudan region. This conflict within Egyptian borders still wasn't over after this. After the Suez Crisis, in which a new Arab Republic of Egypt attempted to retake the Suez, another important clash happened. The Six-Day War, a part of the Arab-Israeli conflict, was started when Egypt got false reports from the USSR that Israel was massing troops on the Syrian border. This prompted the president, Gamal Abdel Nasser, to invade Israel from the Sinai Peninsula. The war ended with the USA-backed Israel pushing Egypt across the Sinai and then an Israeli occupation of the peninsula for 12 years. The important idea of this is that the Sinai Peninsula was an extremely disputed area for occupation because of the ethnic and religious tensions within. And although Israel was extremely successful at repelling Egyptian forces, the primarily Arab Sinai land had to be given back to Egypt in the Camp David Accords of 1978. Now that we have covered all the reasons that give Egypt its borders today, it is safe to say that it is a combination of geographical, ethnic, religious, and historical reasons that Egypt has its present-day borders today. In the future, we shall definitely see that the borders be even more perfected as time goes on, especially as conflicts continue and politics shift.